everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. I have another Christmas ornament idea for you today. And for this, you're going to need a package of the Tumbling Tower game blocks from the Dollar Tree. You're going to need a ruler, like the L-shaped ruler you can get at the Dollar Tree to help you glue them together and get them straight. And you're going to need a piece of um, white foam core board that you can also get at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to have to cut it down to size. But first I want to get the frames built so that we can see just how big we need to cut that piece of foam core, and then we're going to decorate it in a few different ways. So what I did is I took these blocks from the Dollar Tree and we're going to glue them together end to end in groups of 2. Okay, and then you've got to let these dry completely before you try to go on to the next step. So that's when I use my ruler. This is metal. It came from the Dollar Tree. So what I'm going to do is I put wood glue in between the 2 pieces, and I'm going to push it up against here and up against here and push it down so that it stays level. And then I'm just going to set it over to dry. And it needs time to dry completely before you try to make it into an L. If you try to make it into an L before it's dry, it's just going to all come apart. And then you get to start over. Trust me, I tried. I learned that lesson the hard way. So you're going to need 4 pieces of this. Okay, and then let them dry. These 2 are drying right now. And then you have these pieces that look like this that are dry. So you're going to put 1 group of 2 there, and then you're going to smear your wood glue. I'm just using Gorilla Glue. I just have it in a cup because my bottle is all clogged and it's getting all gloopy. So you're going to push that into the corner so that it makes a good square angle. Then move it over to dry. These just need time to dry, and then we can move on with the next step. So give them at least a good hour. Make sure they're good and solid. I cut a piece of foam board to fit inside of my frames. You know how we glued these 2 together. I'm not gluing all 4 pieces together yet to make the square because there's a few more steps first, but I need to get this foam core board to be the exact right size. So this is just a hair over 3 1/4 inches, but I suggest you measure yours because I'm finding some that are a different measurement than some of the others. So they're not, every Jenga block isn't exactly the same size. So make sure you just double check that. And then once you get to where the board fits, you can trim it with your scissors if you need to trim it down, or you can use a box cutter, which is how I cut the board originally. I tried to cut it with my rotary cutter paper trimmer, but that just didn't work. And then once I have it cut to the right size, I'm just going to scuff sand the edges because there's this little tattered edge from where I cut it with the knife. And I'm making sure to go one direction, and I'm going down, and I'm just trying to get the top part. This will just get off any little edges of foam that are hanging there. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. You just want all these little fuzzies off. Okay. And then stick it inside. Make sure that you're square when you put it together. Okay. The reason I'm not gluing this frame together first is because I want to be able to sandwich this inside. I don't want to have the white foam core behind the wood, and I want it to be inside the wood. It'll look nicer and more finished that way. So that's the reason I'm doing it that way. And I'm just making sure I have it where I want it to be. Okay, then I need to cut some paper. I'm going to show you my 3 favorite paper pads that I purchased as hot buys at Michael's last Christmas, and I love them so much that I went back and I got a brand new pad of each one so that I could start crafting for Christmas for this year and not have to wait for the paper to come out. So these are my 3 favorites, and I just wanted to share them with you. It's Say Freeze, and this one is full of snowmen, And this other one is called Fireside. And then the other favorite I have is the North Pole Gazette. I'm going to try to use papers from the same pad so they'll coordinate, and I'll have several different ones, different ornaments in the same paper. I'm thinking the polka dots might be nice. So I'm just going to use these 3 papers to show you, and I'll be making a bunch more where I'll use up these other papers that I showed you. You could just use poster board if you wanted, but I like the foam core because it's sturdier and it gives you an edge to glue to. Now I'm just going to put these to the side. I will use them up, just not right now. Okay, and then going to the mark. And I will use this scrap up as well. But I just want to cut the 3 pieces so we can get on with this video. So the next step is to decoupage these on to the foam core board. I'm using matte finish Mod Podge. I prefer the matte over the shine. And I am just going to brush a coat on. Just a thin coat. I'm going to put a thin coat on the back of the paper as well. And then I'm going to put it on. Make sure that it's pushed down really, really well. And I'm not going to put a coat over the top until this coat has dried. And then we'll see if I even need one. Sometimes you don't even need one. You can use like a wallpaper roller kind of a thing to smooth out so you don't get any bubbles. You can use a squeegee, corner of a credit card. I'm just going to use this little block. I need to let these dry. Okay, so I want to paint my blocks, and I was thinking of black on the Waverly chalk paint, but I also thought maybe a dark wood stain color might look nice. So I have this Waverly wax. It's in the color Antique Wax, and it's just, I've never used this before. I just bought it the other day. So I'm going to try one on this little brick. I just want to see what the color is going to be. I don't even know if it's going to work like paint or if it's going to work like stain or if it's going to work at all. I kind of like that color. The color looks nice with that one, and it doesn't look bad with that one. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint my frames this Waverly Antique Wax color instead of going with black. You do what you want to do. If you want them white, paint them white. If you want them black, paint them black. It's totally and completely up to you. All of the pieces are painted. Now they just need time to dry, along with the Mod Podge that I put on the paper. And when they're dry, I'll be back to show you the next step. For the next step, you're going to need to have your wood glue handy, and you're going to need your hot glue gun heated up. And we are going to go ahead and attach these frames to their little foam core piece. I decided not to put Mod Podge over the top. I didn't think it needed it. If you think your paper needs it, because this is a printed cardstock, so I think it's durable enough. And I think putting the Mod Podge on it would just change the texture of it. And I really like the way that this paper looks. And you can see the reflection on that glittery polka dot. I don't want to lose that by covering that with Mod Podge. I think that will just catch nicely in the tree. And since it is cardstock, I don't think it needs that extra protection. So I've gone through and kind of dry fitted my frames, and then realized I'm going to have to touch up on the ends because one end is going to be exposed and I didn't, well, actually two ends, and I didn't think about that. So anyhow, so the first thing you're going to do is, once it's dry fitted, you're going to put a bead of hot glue along here and here, and it's going to get slid into here, okay, and pushed firmly. Then I'm going to put a little dot of wood glue on my corners, and I'm going to pick this up and put glue here and here and slide it all together and hope it all sticks real good. Okay, so start with a bead of hot glue. I don't want a ton of hot glue, just enough to make it stick because I don't want it to ooze out everywhere when I push these two things together. This goes into the corner. I'm going to push it, and I'm pushing pretty hard, getting it all the way up inside of the frame. Okay, and it's flush with the wood back here. It's not, I don't want that foam core being exposed on the edges because the edges are kind of ugly, if you can see them. They're kind of ugly, and I don't want those to be seen. So when you're pushing this in, make sure you're pushing down as well because the foam core sometimes likes to curl up. Then I'm going to take my gloopy glop glue, and I'm going to put a dot on a little bit on here and a little bit on here, whichever two ends are touching on yours, whichever way you put yours together, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to run a bead of glue, of hot glue, around the edge of this one. Got to kind of work quickly and neatly all at the same time and smush it together. All right. That hot glue will hold it together while the wood glue dries. That's the first one. Keep your glue gun going because you're going to need it in a minute, and you need to cut yourself some circles. These circles are 2 inches, and then you need to cut a scallop, and these scallops are 2.5, but I cut these on my Cricut instead of using a punch because I didn't have a 2.5-inch punch. I had a 2, which was too small, and a 3, which was too big. So I got out my Elegant Edges cartridge, and this is the first scallop that is on. It's button number 1, and it is the shift function of that. And so we are going to end up layering these, but we need to stamp some sentiment words onto our circles. So I need 3. I like peace, joy, hope, and love. I think I will do peace, joy, and hope. I'm going to use these. I'm going to do peace, joy, and hope. All right, I grabbed my StazOn ink in jet black. I just like this color of black, so that's why I chose it. I put my word peace on my ink, on my stamping block. I'm going to ink it up, and I'm just going to take a scratch piece of paper and do a quick test, making sure there's nothing on my stamp. Sometimes you get a hair or something in there. And I'm just going to center, I'm going to ink up my word, and I'm going to center it and stamp it. You can stamp whatever words you want. You can stamp a snowman if you wanted, whatever you want to do. Okay, so then you need your 3 scallops. You can glue these together either with tacky glue or with hot glue, totally up to you. I'm going to be using Aleene's tacky glue, and I'll start with peace because it's had more time to dry. Now the back of this has pink stripes on it. A little thing I figured out this summer when I ran out of white cardstock, and I was really irritated because I needed a whole bunch of things cut in white cardstock, and then it occurred to me, you got that pad of paper over there you never use, and the back side is white. So I just started cutting things out and flipping it over instead of wasting it. I had this whole box of paper I was going to take to the thrift store because I just wasn't using those patterns and whatnot. Well, now I pulled them back out, and I've been cutting all sorts of things out of them to use them as white. So just my little tip for the day, don't throw your stuff away if you need it. You can use it. There's usually more than one way to use something. I'm just centering these circles onto the scallops, and I am just eyeballing it. I'm not aiming for perfection. Ah, don't do that. Just dropped it. Got glue everywhere. All right. So now we need to put these in here. I want peace on there and hope on there. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can bump it up with a foam dot, or you can glue it flat. So I'm going to be using these foam mounting squares. I got them at Dollar Tree. They're super glue brand and they're super duper sticky. These are just perforated. I don't know if I want one thickness or two, so I'm going to experiment. So here's one thickness. I haven't peeled the back off yet, so it's not going to stick. That doesn't pop it up very high, but if I put two of them on, that pops it out and it gives some shadow behind there, and I think I really like that. So I'm going to do a little trick. I peel off the bigger side of the backing, and then I just fold them together, and it makes it double the thickness. And then I don't need this ginormous one, so I'm going to cut it in half because I'm going to pop this in two places. Actually, I might do three. Maybe even four. I want it to be secure and not, if something bumps it or gets pushed up against it, I don't want it to bend. So I'm going to put one here. And I'm coming in from the edge just a little ways, not a lot. I just want to make sure it's good and sturdy and is going to hold up. So I'm just peeling off the backing, and that. So I've got all four pieces peeled up, and I'm just going to eyeball the center and pop that in. Now you can see that it pops up off of the backing board. That'll just give it a little shadow, especially when it's hanging, if it's hanging on a Christmas tree or whatever, it's going to catch the light. And when I'm able to get some more greenery, I might go ahead and tuck some in around there. Now we need to put a ribbon on the back, a hanger. And if you've been watching any of my Christmas in July series, you know that I have this bucket of ribbon. I'm going to choose to use red. And I'm just going to, you could also use jute. But I'm just going to glue this to the back so that all you see is the pretty side, pretty parts of the ribbon. Okay. So I'm going to put a little glue, make sure I'm doing it at the top, little glue, and I'm going to put this down, making sure both pretty sides face out. I'm going to use a little block to smooth that glue out. I'm going to smooth the glue under the ribbon so that it sticks really well. And then I need to glue down this little point. Now, if you wanted to cover this with a piece of cardstock on the back to cover up all of that, you could actually do that and have it look really nice. But the ribbon being flat like that, will allow you to go ahead and cover it if you want. Okay, and then that gives me that for my hanger, and I think that's really pretty. Now that red is a little bit brighter than the red that's on there, but I think it'll be okay. Going to do the same to this one. So this has been my farmhouse square wooden ornament Dollar Tree DIY project. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking that little bell icon next to the subscription bar. That way you will get notified each and every time that I upload a video. This has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.